It's a really interesting question to like bring the non-monogamy piece back into it, because during those first couple years, I was now also questioning, because I thought I had kind of taken on non-monogamous as an identity as well, because it had really worked for me and it felt really good, and like it felt like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to do things, or like this is what works for me, this is what feels full and exciting and like all these things. And I had to then piece apart, wait, was I like, am I polyamorous, or was I a lesbian in a relationship with a man? What lands where, what belongs where? And yeah, I realized that it wasn't actually, for me, non-monogamy wasn't the thing that I needed specifically. It was that I needed to be able to like express my queer identity.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Well, welcome to episode 377. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have a lovely interview with Alayna. Alayna walks us through her journey exploring her sexuality and discovering her sexuality and her relationship structure and how she's gotten to where she's at today.
Yeah, as you'll hear, Alayna grew up in a pretty conservative rural part of Canada where she didn't even know that women could be gay growing up.
Yeah.
And takes us today on her journey through going through the boy crazy phase and then exploring her sexuality and relationships, non-monogamy, and ultimately arriving where she is today. And we're just super excited about this conversation. It is amazing. Alayna is so fun to talk to.
She is. She's really fun.
Yeah, and we're just excited for this. So please stick around. You're going to love this one. And we also wanted to shout out Alayna's incredible work. Alayna is a queer content creator with almost 500,000 subscribers on YouTube and tons of incredible content. Please check it out. It's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
And she is also the host of the new podcast, Sleeping Around, The Psychology of Sex, Dating, and Relationships. And she co-hosts the podcast, Chosen Family. So please go and check out all of her work. Links to all of it is in the podcast show notes. And also,
we have exciting news.
Yeah, we were on her podcast.
We were on her podcast, Sleeping Around, yesterday.
Just came out yesterday.
And it's our first ever video interview as well. So you can go and listen on her podcast channel or go to her YouTube channel and listen. Links are in the show notes.
Yeah, and we'll just shout out her Patreon. She'll probably do that on the video. But yeah, we've got like bonus extra clips that you can listen to and watch. So please, again, go check out all of her work. Please support the work. It's amazing. And we just hope you enjoy this conversation today with Alayna and yesterday with us and Alayna.
And a quick reminder, you can find links to all of Alayna's work in the podcast show notes in your podcast player or on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the podcast tab.
And with that, we're going to jump into the interview for anybody who is a premium subscriber. And for everybody else, we've just got a couple of quick announcements.
If you're not familiar with the premium subscription, it's a way to skip these announcements up front. But don't worry, we still share important dates of upcoming events in the outro. To sign up for the premium subscription, go to our website. Again, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Scroll down the homepage and you can sign up right there for only $4 a month.
And while you're on that homepage, you can check out the next big upcoming event that Emma was talking about.
February 21st.
February 21st is our next virtual speed friending. There is a banner at the top of the homepage where you can sign up. Our virtual speed friendings are events where we bring a whole bunch of you from around the world into Zoom. We ask a fun question to get your thinking. We put you in a small breakout room. You talk about that question for about 6 or 7 minutes with a small group of people. We scramble the rooms. We ask a new question and we do that over and over for about 2 hours. And everyone seems to have a pretty good time. So we'd love to have you join us. Please, again, you can sign up on our website at the banner on the top or under the events tab. We'd love to see you there.
And if you're looking to meet more like-minded people on our more regular basis in 2025, we'd also invite you to check out our community.
Regular, like on the daily.
Yes, on the daily. If you listen to our podcast, you know that Finn and I love bringing people together. We love building community, and we have built a community of over 300 people It's an incredible group of supportive people, if we do say ourselves. Yes.
Yeah, from all over the world.
We host our community on Mighty Networks. We also host monthly community discussion calls and workshops. To sign up, over to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, click on the community tab, and you can sign up for only $5 a month.
We also have in-person retreats.
We do. We have one coming up in Atlanta in April.
Yeah, we're gonna dish more info on that soon. But for now, just know it's gonna be amazing, and we would love to have you come check it out.
And next up, we want to remind you all about our favorite way to get tested for STIs. It is stdcheck.com. This is a service that Finn and I use, and we have been using it for years. We love it. It is fast and affordable and discreet. And if you use the links on the resources page of our website, you get $10 off, making a 10-panel test only $129. You get to know your sexual health status, and you support the show. So thank you in advance for doing so.
And thank you to everybody who's used those links over the last 5 years. You've helped us keep being able to make this show free every single week. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
And finally, a quick reminder to reach out to us. Send us a voicemail, send us an email if you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you have any comments or questions for us. We would love to hear from you. Just go over to the Contact Us page of our website to do that.
Yeah, and I'm just going to put one more emphasis on this piece. We'd love to have you come on the podcast. You don't need to be a content creator with 500,000 subscribers. You just need to be you, and we'd love to talk to you. So please send us an email and come on the show.
And with that, let's go and jump into the interview with Alayna. Welcome, Alayna, to this podcast today. We're so excited to talk to you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for reaching out. For anyone listening who doesn't know, we were just recently on Alayna's podcast as well. So
yeah, sleeping around.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We'd love for you to start just by introducing yourself.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Alayna Joy. I make content on the internet, mostly about the queer community, sex, dating, relationships, and like Emma just mentioned, I have a podcast called Sleeping Around, where I interview various experts and therapists and folks in all sorts of areas under the umbrella of sex, dating, and relationships. And yeah, Emma and Finn came on for an episode, and we talked about non-monogamy. It was a great episode. And yeah, I have another podcast called Chosen Family, which is a lot more just kind of fun, conversational, chatty. I'm all over the place. I'm in school. I'm in a master's program for counseling psychology, so lots of stuff going on.
Busy times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we're glad we got to chat today and to dig into your story a little bit. And we don't know much about it, but we know a very little bit. And so maybe take us to today. We're already here.
Yeah.
It's a short walk. What does sort of your relationship ecosystem look like today at the end of October, almost Halloween 2024?
Yeah. When we're recording this, it's interesting. My relationship structure and kind of experience today it's not that thrilling. It's pretty standard. I'm a queer woman. I'm a cis woman. I'm engaged actually to my partner, who's also a woman. So we're monogamous. It's it's pretty I don't want to use the word vanilla, but compared to, I think, a lot of the stories that, you guys talk about or that are out there, it's pretty standard. But the interesting piece, I guess, would be kind of the how long it took me to get here. Because that was not a straight road.
And I want to just say that there's absolutely nothing wrong with standard or like just the where you're at. Like that's something that we always want to stress to people is like find the relationship that works for you. And that's what I'm excited to dive into, like how you figured out how to find that relationship that works for you and where you're at today. And I also want to say congratulations on your engagement. That's
thank you.
Super exciting.
Thanks. Yeah, we've been engaged for a while, so it's kind of funny. It'll be almost a year already at the end of this year that anyway. Yeah, where do you want me to start with?
Well, yeah, let's back up the windy road a little bit and figure out. I mean, we do know that non-monogamy was a bus stop along the way, or a stop along the tour here, and so maybe take us back to the beginning.
Oh God, oh man, there's been a few bus stops. Let me tell you. So basically, if we're kind of rewinding back to the beginning, I grew up in a small religious conservative town up here in Canada, right in the heart of the prairies, in Manitoba. So growing up in that context, like very heavily involved in the church, I didn't even know that women could be gay. Like, I didn't know that was an option. All that I knew about queerness or about being gay was that men can be gay sometimes, but that is bad. It's bad, it's wrong, you're going to hell, all of that fun stuff. Sinful.
Yeah.
We don't think like that down here in the US, by the way.
Yeah, this is a totally new viewpoint for you guys, I'm sure.
This must be a Canadian thing.
Yeah, exactly. And, I didn't think too much about it. I had kind of this, I remember always having a bad feeling about it. Like, we'd be in church, and I remember when kind of gay marriage, whether you're for that term or not, at the time in Canada was being legalized. And this being like this massive conversation in church about, how awful that was and all these things. And then I remember I was in junior high when the big story of Ellen, coming out as gay. I don't know if that's when she came out or if there was just this like news story about it, but I remember seeing this magazine and like she was on the cover and it was like, I'm gay. And I remember where I was. I remember who I was with. Like, I remember that moment so clearly where I realized for the first time that women could be gay. And it was this kind of like, oh, moment that I then, filed away, tucked away into the back of my brain to never think about again.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I very much throughout this time, and this is where it can be confusing for some people to understand, because I'm very openly a gay woman now. I identify as lesbian, gay, queer, all of those fun things. Growing up, like through junior high, through high school, the bus stop was, I thought that I was straight as could be. Like, I was boy crazy, quote unquote. Like, I was one of those girls where my mom was concerned, my teachers were concerned, because I was like very caught up in boys and just like dating and what boys thought of me and which boys who liked and like all of that stuff. And it I never felt like a qualm about it or confusion or like it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Like, it didn't even occur to me that wasn't, I don't know how to even explain it. Like, that wasn't real or authentic or all of the other reasons that could be true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you were just so, in some ways, like, it's what you knew. It's what was modeled for you. It was what was expected of you. Like, and so you kind of fit that mold in that way of just embracing it. And I wonder if there's a part of you that was like, well, in some ways, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to have fun. Like, I'm going to be curious and enjoy this phase of, even if, just at that time as a teenager.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's probably a million reasons why this type of thing happens. I'm like, one thought that comes to mind is just there's so much power in being like the people around us, right? And so even if it doesn't align with your actual attractions or orientation, it probably felt the most normal and natural. So it probably, I'm guessing it, like you said, it didn't feel off. It probably just felt like, well, this is what we're supposed to do, and it's fun and wild, and I'm a kid.
Exactly. And it was like, I like actually that you used the word curiosity, because I haven't thought about it that way before, where like I have my own understanding of how it all kind of happened, partially being exactly the kind of compulsory heteronormativity piece where like that's what's modeled to you. So you're like, well, I have no reason to think I'm not this thing. So And then I had a lot of, perfectionism, people pleasing, that kind of stuff. So I was determined to be the best at everything, including being straight, I was gonna be with the cutest boy, and I was gonna be the best girlfriend, and just diving on head first.
Yeah.
And then the validation piece. So like, as someone who grew up socialized as a woman, you're taught from a very young age that boys liking you is like your purpose and your value. And so I think I also leaned pretty heavily into that. But I hadn't kind of thought about the curiosity piece, which rings really true. When you said that, I was like, oh, yeah. Because there was also a lot of curiosity around, like, what is all this stuff? Like, well, when you're starting to figure out.
Yeah.
When you hit puberty and you kind of have.
Right.
But even before puberty, I was like, truly, I was obsessed with boys from like the moment they entered my world. Yeah. Like, I think that also speaks to kind of an obsession that to this day with just like relationships and like the dynamics and the different ways that people have relationships and the feelings and all that, I want to be a sex therapist. It was there from a young age.
Yeah. And I love that, like, that you can kind of view it through that lens of like that curiosity. Yeah. Like, of course, I love, it sounds like you loved people. You love figuring that out. You're, you're growing up. You're figuring out, oh, well, if I interact with this person this way, this is what, this is what might happen. This is what's possibilities. Like, you're figuring that out as we all do and leaning into that connection.
Yeah. I mean, how do you know what you like and don't like unless you try different things?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I was, this also took me years and years and years to understand, but I was also confusing all sorts of different types of enjoyment with, oh, this is sexual and romantic. So if I found somebody like aesthetically pleasing, it's like, oh, I am attracted to this person. Or if I really liked being around somebody and like we had a lot of fun and we laughed, oh, I have a crush on this person. When like those things I now recognize are not, they're not equal, right? Like they can coexist, but one doesn't mean the other.
Right.
So so that's happening all through junior high school. I am like all about the boys while simultaneously being fully in love with my best friend. Like absolutely fully smitten, and somehow mistaking that for this is just what close friendship feels like with another woman.
Yeah.
like I really thought, oh, this is how all girls feel. Like I was like, oh, we all feel this way. Because also my best friend at the time, I always call her Kate online. That's not her real name. Kate was also quite like popular and everybody liked her and wanted to be around her. So I was like, yeah, we all feel like this. Like we all, we all want to be close to Kate. We all feel this way. Not for a second questioning that there was anything strange about it. I really didn't have this like internal battle. I felt like I was like, oh, this is normal. We all feel like this.
Isn't that amazing? The power of conditioning and just the power of what we're supposed to, right? You feel you have a good time hanging out with a guy or one of your maybe male friends and you're like, well, I guess I'm in love with him and I'm supposed to marry him. And yet you're like fully in love with your best friend and you're like, well, I can't be in love with her. We're just friends. Like it's just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like the stories we'll tell ourselves just based on conditioning.
And the stories that we get told.
Yeah, we get told for sure.
Yeah, it's like wild to think back on knowing what I know now. And so it was like that until there was this moment where, so Kate and I, we started, like we were fully like dating. We just didn't know it. We didn't have the language for it. We didn't know what was going on. And so that kind of continued on and off. I started dating this guy pretty seriously. So then things with me and Kate stopped. also like so weird. Her and I like started having these like rifts in our friendship, and like, oh, it's so weird how now suddenly we're like kind of fighting and things are tense and weird. It's not like we were dating and now I'm dating someone else. We're just like really good friends.
Right. Why is this so hard for you?
Exactly. Like, oh my God. So like, look, it's just funny looking back. So I'm dating this guy, graduate from high school. Next bus stop, discovering bisexuality. And I found this on the internet, again, just watching a bunch of like coming out stories online and being like, oh, none of these people are me. And then hearing that bisexuality was a thing, which again, I didn't know. Like it wasn't a word that was in my vernacular. So learning that someone could be bi, that was a light bulb moment where I was like, oh my God, that explains everything, right? Like that makes everything make sense now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started coming out to people in my life as bi. I came out to my partner who, so him and I, that I'll say that was the next kind of bus stop was thinking, oh, this explains it.
Yeah. It sounds like that was a light bulb in those like late teen years after high school, kind of figuring out you're in this quote unquote fairly serious relationship with your boyfriend at the time, and realizing bisexuality is a thing, and like, oh, okay. And so you started coming out to people as bisexual.
So first I came out to him, and he was totally chill. He was like, oh, great. Just like maybe don't make out with girls in bars anymore. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool. That makes sense. Which was actually really validating, because it was like he was taking me seriously and like understanding that this wasn't just, that he was wonderful, right? Like he was very respectful and like, validated what I was telling him. So I kind of told him, and then I was like, okay, great. Never need to talk about this again. And I can't exactly remember, but over the next couple of years, I came out to a few friends, but really had decided within myself that this wasn't something that people needed to know about me. It wasn't something I needed to talk about. My family didn't need to know. I was already making content online. The internet didn't need to know, because I was dating a man. So, quote unquote, it didn't matter. Like it was like, I made my choice. No need to rock the boat. This part of me doesn't matter because I'm dating a man. That didn't work so well.
Didn't pan out in reality, huh?
Exactly. And
but I want to say that's like likely what felt safe at the time.
Yes.
Right? Like that's what felt comfortable. That's what felt safe. Like, oh, I know this part of me exists. I'm discovering that. But this, I've made these choices. No one else needs to know. This is what's safe. This is what I'm going to do.
Well, and you'd also had the experience of telling somebody that you were with Kate and it really going poorly. So there was a lot of, it's just, to me, so much of your story is about, permission isn't necessarily the right word, but it, in some ways, like permission.
No, it is. Yeah.
Right? Oh, I didn't know I could be gay. Oh, look, Ellen's gay. I didn't know bisexual was a thing. Oh, look, that's a thing. I think that's it just seems like each step of the way you discover something and you're like, wait a minute, I'm this thing, right? So it's just amazing. And then you get the sort of shame come at you when you tell people about Kate. So of course, I don't need to tell anybody about this. Like it should be a thing that gets celebrated when you learn it about yourself. And instead we hide it.
Oh, I hope that we're coming toward a world where that's like a thing to be celebrated, that discovery within yourself.
Right.
Well, and it's funny, even the shame piece, like I came out to Kate. Like she was one of the people that I came out to. And again, I remember exactly where we were. I remember it so vividly. Because she reacted with this kind of discomfort and shame, which I now recognize. Now she's like openly queer. I now recognize, that was her own stuff coming up. But like, to feel, not like she wasn't horrible or anything, but to feel shame, like coming out to the person who you were like discovering this with was even like further confirmation of like, this is, you keep this to yourself. Like, don't, you're a big weirdo. Don't tell anybody this.
Wow. Was that sort of that, like, it was fine that we were doing that, but I didn't know you actually like it was just.
Yeah, it was like, I remember her saying, like I said, so I've realized I'm bi. And she was like, she like thought about it for a bit, and then she was like, oh, so you mean like if you were like watching a movie or something with like a girl, you would like cuddle with her? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, oh, I just couldn't see myself doing that. Like that kind of thing, where she was asking me like, you'd hold hands? And I was like, yeah. She's like, oh, that kind of feeling where I'm like, oh, okay. I've crossed some sort of line.
Right? Do you remember that part?
Yeah, like remember when we used to joke about like being those two old ladies that would like live together and everyone would think we were so weird because we just had one bedroom? Like, remember that? No? Like,
yeah.
But yeah.
High school's a hard time.
Right. Well, and you have to remember, she grew up in the same, the same environment you did.
Exactly.
So she's likely undoing all of that as well.
Exactly.
But still, it doesn't make it any easier.
Well, and it wasn't, like, to be clear, it wasn't outwardly, like, shamey or, like, she didn't say anything mean or anything compared to, like, other things that I had gotten. Just her own kind of processing was happening in real time in front of me.
Which is how this perpetuates, right? So even the people who are gay or who are coming out, they perpetuate the same narrative down the line because the shame is so powerful.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm at a place where I'm like, I never need to talk about this again. Cut to 2 years later, I watch Ingrid, and I swear I'm getting to the non-monogamy part.
Yeah.
That's all part of your story.
It's a twisting road. So cut to 2 years later, I watch Ingrid Nilsson's coming out video. I don't know if either of you are familiar with that cultural moment. Oh my God. So long story short, Ingrid at the time was this like beauty influencer. She had a boyfriend, long-term boyfriend, and she made videos about like makeup and skincare and lifestyle. Your very typical like straight woman. Out of nowhere, I still get goosebumps like when I think about it. She drops a video coming out as a lesbian. This rocked my world because now she also has like long brown hair. She was in a relationship with a man. This was the first time I saw a coming out video where I'm like, oh, that could be me. It's not, oh, I knew as soon as I started having romantic or sexual experiences, I knew, or I kissed a boy once and was repulsed and I knew, like, it wasn't that story. And it terrified me. I had a full meltdown. My boyfriend and I started talking. He's like, what is happening? And I said to him, I think I'm gay. I was probably, I don't know, let's say 24, 25. Mm-hmm. I think I'm gay. And he was like, oh, okay. He, like, truly the most wonderful, I really can't stress that enough. He was like, okay. Are you saying that like that you don't want to be together anymore? And I was like, no, I'm not saying that. And he was like, okay, are you saying that you don't love me? And I was like, no, I'm not saying that. He's like, okay, are you not happy with our life together? No, I love our life. Okay. And then we're sitting there across from each other on the bed and like we both start laughing. Because it felt like, oh, silly me. Like, that can't be true. Of course, I can't be gay. Like, look, I love my life and I love my partner and I love all of these things. Like, oh man, like silly brain, you know? And it was in the next little while through conversations about this that basically I was like, okay, well, I think that this is just that I've been suppressing this side of myself and, you know, I now I need to talk about it. So I came out online, I came out to my family as bi, and that was like a very kind of celebratory time because it was like, oh, I get to acknowledge this part of myself publicly. And also in the background, my boyfriend was like, he was like, hey, also, like, if this is something that you want to explore, you should do that. So that's where enter non-monogamy bus stop.
Well, it's an interesting change because it sounds like the first time when you communicated that you were bi, his reaction, and this is not any shade of him, was to say, well, maybe stop making out with women or girls in the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And now this time it's almost like it was taken a little bit more serious. Like, oh, this is a real thing that we actually maybe have to pay attention to.
I think it was like he didn't realize that it was something that I needed to be present, like very present in our relationship, which is like no shade to him because
totally.
I told him and then I stopped talking about it for 2 years. Like there's no way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I think it was like, oh, this is something like really present for her if she wants, like, I don't know. But basically.
Yeah, maybe like you're both kind of realizing because you said, I feel like this is a part of me I've been suppressing. And maybe that landed for him too of like, oh, I don't want her to be suppressing that. And
exactly.
Sounds like, a few years prior, that wasn't really part of the dialogue.
No.
So what happens?
So what happens next? So then we quite gently, like our kind of opening of the relationship, it happened really gradually. So it started with just like, going back to like kissing girls in bars and like going out. It was kind of like, it was totally fine if I like made out with a girl or whatever, flirted with women. And that felt so good. Like it was like, and that it's a totally different conversation, but something else I have been thinking about a lot in my life now is how much it impacted my relationship with alcohol and how for like the next decade, I basically conflated drinking with like self-expression and like, oh, when I go out drinking, that's when I get to be with women. So it like became this like interesting dynamic with alcohol in my life. So yeah, and then it kind of progressed from there in the way that like, you know, more and more things would happen and I would check in with him, hey, this thing seems like it's going to happen, or this is how I'm feeling. How is that for you? And it was always like, fine, good. He kept always telling me, you don't have to ask. Like, go ahead. You don't have to ask me. You do whatever you want. And he was also never interested in being open on his side. So it was this kind of
ask, yeah.
Yeah, no, I would ask him about it. I would offer it. And he just, I don't know, he wasn't interested. So
yeah. And at this point, you were mostly exploring it with other women.
Only, yeah. Yeah, only with other women. And that's an interesting piece because I don't think the sentiment would have been the same had I said, oh, I'd like to also explore with men. But we didn't have to cross that bridge because, alas, I am a lesbian.
That wasn't the twist in the story, was it? You were just, look, I was just looking for other men this whole time.
That's the twist, yeah. And so that progressed. It progressed from like, you know, the things I was talking about to, oh, I'm developing feelings for this one person. This was a few years into it. And so, we navigated that. I had a full relationship with a woman who she had a primary partner. I considered my boyfriend my primary partner. And we had this like really beautiful connection, and through that, when I think back to that relationship, I hold a bit of I hold a bit of guilt, because I now know there were a lot of times where I held her at arm's length, and like she would want to get close to me, and I would be like, I would refute her, and not always in very transparent ways. Like I think she felt in the dark quite a bit of the time, and fair enough to me. I didn't know that that's what I was doing, like I didn't know that I was having the red alarm bell terror feelings every time that we started to get close to each other, and so that's why I was pushing her away. But yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. I'm curious what the red alarm bells and the sirens were screaming to you at that point.
It was having feelings and experiences that I hadn't had before, or like wasn't having in my current relationship. And it was really, it's like I couldn't even touch. It still, at this point, had not occurred to me like, oh, I might be gay. That was not in my head. It was like, so it's like I couldn't even touch or look at the idea that like, oh, what if I want to be with her rather than with him? That did not, like I couldn't, that was too scary, too threatening. So that was kind of, it was all alarm bell stuff around that. Like I would have a feeling or an experience, and it would just be so real that if I had even looked at it for a second, I would have had to acknowledge how different this was than the relationship that I was in. So yeah, so that we dated for around 2 years, and then ended things. And then,
and at this point, you've been with your boyfriend quite a long time.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We had been together for probably like 7-8 years at that point. Yeah. And yeah, then I started dating. I met somebody here in Vancouver, and we started this kind of flirty thing. And yeah, so this was all, and again, it kind of progressed in this way where it started, like all of this started so kind of like fun and flirty and innocent. And then as time went on, it took up a bigger and bigger space in my mind, in my heart, in my body, and that was, I think, kind of scary for him, because it was becoming like a lot bigger than I think he had imagined when we started this whole thing. And then so it was around then. So that's like end of 2019 was when I started to have the kind of like, uh-oh feelings. Of like something's like, something's not right here. But still like trying so hard not to look at it. Like I was like, I refuse to acknowledge these feelings I'm having.
Yeah. Well, because you knew, I don't know, in some ways, like it's hard. It's so hard to examine those feelings. Like, that there might be a really big shift. Yeah. And that's scary.
The stability of life is...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we... oh my God, I'm forgetting a huge part of the story. So I was like, wait, something I'm missing. So in the midst of all this, right before kind of I started having the really feelings, I was still like, oh, look at me. I have everything. This is perfect. Look at me with everything in my life. I have this wonderful partner, and we have this open relationship. So I get to have this other part of me, and I get to live this other part of my life, and everything is so like full, and I have everything I could ever want. Then he proposed to me. We got engaged. That's the piece. And that was the moment after that when it was like, okay, now we're going to get married. We are now engaged. Now we're talking about marriage. Panic. Like that was the thing where it was like, I can't not look at this, because the thought of marrying him like fills me with pure dread, fear, like bad feelings in my body and like it was like panic.
Yeah, you had to pay attention to it.
Yes.
And again, like not necessarily against him. Like it sounds like over this relationship, it was a generally good relationship. It was just this dynamic, this like wasn't right for you.
And that's what made it so confusing this whole time, is that we had a lovely relationship. We trusted each other, we supported each other. We had a really good friendship. Like we were best friends, you know? And so that was like the hardest part of all this. So basically, so that was end of 2019. And so that's when it was like, I'm having really bad feelings and I can't figure out why. You know, first step, we kind of tried to talk through what could be going on. The next piece was me trying to say, like, maybe I don't want to get married. I think maybe I don't want that. And that was really hard. And then early 2020 comes around and then it was like, I think I'm gay. Oh. No. No. That can't be true. Like, Alayna, don't do this to me.
Right. Like you're like pushing against it.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I don't want to do this. But I know this, but I don't want to do this.
Exactly.
And also, I just want to comment on the time frame.
Yeah, I was going to say, pretty scary time of life.
Early 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So that's exactly the next kind of, I don't know if you want to call that a bus stop, but
it's not what I want to stop at again.
Yeah, exactly. Amidst all of this, COVID hits, the lockdown starts. And now it is just me and my boyfriend alone, quarantined. This whole queer side of my life that I've built is gone, right? Because I can't go out. I can't see these other people. I can't enact that part of myself anymore. And we're supposed to be planning this wedding. All of that is happening in to create this kind of pressure cooker, right? Situation where I could not look at it anymore. Then basically, you know, I have the moment of true realization where I was like, no, I know this to be true. And it was like the worst feeling I've ever had. It was awful. And me and my ex, we broke up. Like I ended the whole thing. He moved out. I'm now alone in this apartment in mid-COVID. We had moved to Vancouver, so like halfway across the country from where my family is. So I'm like alone. And I ended up driving back to Manitoba because couldn't fly because COVID. It's like a 26-hour drive. And I stayed back with my family for a while. Just kind of tried to put the pieces back together, and then entered the world of like, oh, I'm now like queer dating as a single lesbian woman, and it's COVID. What the what do we do? How do we do this?
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, I think what sticks out, there's so many amazing parts of your story. I think what sticks out to me is just it was, north of a decade of you not even suppressing it fully, right? You're welcoming it, you're exploring it, you're pushing it down, but you're not really hiding it. And it still takes, maybe this is just like the takeaways, like it still takes so long to fight through all of this to become who we are.
Yeah.
Or even to be able to look at it. And it takes something as extreme sometimes as being quarantined during a global pandemic to say like
plus an engagement.
It feels like the amount of pressure that had to be stacked on it for it to break was immense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like throughout this whole time, it's like you were in a quote unquote good relationship of being like best friends with somebody and exploring your queer identity with other people through like a non-monogamy lens, and that was working, like in a lot of ways. And so you didn't have a reason to like put a bomb on your life until you did.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's just wild to think about because it's not. And so I ended up making a video, for the internet because my partner had been a big part of my channel. People knew a lot about my life. A lot of my content was around bisexuality and like the validity of your sexual identity, no matter who you're dating. So there was another kind of terror piece of like, not only do I have to face the people in my life, but I have to face this whole community that I've built and face potentially hurting or alienating these people that I fought so hard to support and to validate and to like give a platform to. Now I have to turn around and say, like, oops, I'm one of the people who might be taken as proof that your identity is invalid, or like I'm now becoming one of these stereotypes that bi people have to face every single day. Yeah, and that was a whole other layer of feeling shit.
That bisexuality is just a stop along the way to be. You're either gay or you're straight. Bisexuality is just a bunch of confused people stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're gonna choose a side in the end. Bi people can't be monogamous. Exactly. All of those things. And I'm going, oh my God, am I gonna now undo everything that I fought to like show the world that those things aren't true? But the community was like so wonderful and understanding, and like the response shocked me just because I really thought I was gonna get like torn to shreds over this, and I just didn't. Like people were very understanding and lovely. Yeah, and then I dated. I started dating and like having all like exploring what this meant and like what it was like to explore my queerness without this stopgap of like explore it, but like not so much that it threatens your relationship with this boyfriend, Yeah, and that was 2020, and cut to almost 5 years now of like figuring all this stuff out.
Did you, along that time when you're sort of dating and figuring this sort of new way of doing it, were you still bringing forth? I mean, maybe to set this up a little bit, as you were exploring non-monogamy for a few years with your partner, that's not nothing, right? That's a lot of communication. That's a lot of skills. That's a lot of different ways of being in a relationship that you don't necessarily have to do often in a monogamous relationship. And so I'm curious, did you feel in that time that you were operating at like a pretty high level of navigating relationships?
It's a really interesting question to like bring the non-monogamy piece back into it, because during those first couple years, I was now also questioning, because I thought I had kind of taken on non-monogamous as an identity as well. Because it had really worked for me and it felt really good, and like it felt like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to do things, or like this is what works for me. This is what feels full and exciting and like all these things. And I had to then piece apart, wait, am I polyamorous, or was I a lesbian in a relationship with a man? Like what lands where, what belongs where? And I realized that it wasn't actually, for me, non-monogamy wasn't the thing that I needed specifically. It was that I needed to be able to like express my queer identity. And I think I got a lot of good practice at communication, and I have had probably more practice than the average person at needing to really pay attention to figure out what's a yes and what's a no. Because that is a hard thing to unlearn when you've been ignoring your no's for 30 years of your life to try to learn what a no feels like, and then like learn how to stay true to that, and also to learn what a yes feels like, and then like get to find all of your new yeses. It's been a wild ride. So yeah, and then final bus stop that we're at currently, is I'm in a monogamous long-term partnership with my girlfriend. And it's it is hard to understand like how I didn't see this or know it. And also it's not, right? Because of all of the things that we've talked about. Like, also it makes perfect sense. But it is hard to even remember how I possibly was that other person for so many years of my life. Like, it's hard to wrap my head around. So I understand how for some folks, maybe especially queer folks who have known from the moment they came out the womb that, they have known their queerness. I can understand how it's hard to understand how it could have taken somebody, 29 years. Yeah.
Well, just something you said a moment ago about knowing your yeses and knowing what a yes feels like. And just something jumped out to me in that, which was that when you were talking about the difference you felt when you were with your boyfriend and then when you would go and be with your girlfriend, and that it wasn't like when you were with your boyfriend, you were like, like those were still yeses, but like the level of yes maybe that you got when you were with your girlfriend was like a different yes. And I think that's what can be really sneaky about this in many ways is like those other ones didn't feel bad necessarily. They weren't no's, but they weren't like a hell yeah. Like you didn't know that level of yes could be accessed in some ways.
Yeah, I think that the way it felt, or like the way to describe my experience, was that I thought all of these things were yeses. And then when I started experiencing like real yeses, the thing I couldn't look at was that like what I had thought was a yes was like actually a no. And then that was the thing that started growing in my head that I was trying to push away, was like all of these things that I thought were yeses. I started recognizing through comparison where like I was like, oh my God, that, and that's where the panic of like red flag, sirens, can't, like, don't look at it, get away from her, end this.
Yeah.
So it was like, and then the feeling of yes changed, when I recognized like, oh, that, like, I'm starting to understand what a yes feels like. So then those yeses started to become no's, but I was like, oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like it was just like a denial of listening to your needs.
Which is something we're all taught, but I think specifically women are taught
yes,
and socialized from very young. So it makes total sense.
Hi, puppy.
Yeah. He wants to go for a walk. We got to go for a morning walk after this.
I thank you for everything you shared. And I really love how you described that yes and no feeling. And it just occurs to me that so many people go through life not knowing those feelings until you experience it, just with for whatever reason with different people. Like some people you can your body will respond in a certain way and other people you won't. And it's like, but we're not, to Finn's point, like we're not taught to listen to any of that or to like
or to explore it.
Yes, exactly.
Like we're not taught, like, and this is not like the queer agenda, like everybody's gay. That's not what I'm saying. But like at the same time, if you are a person attracted to people of the opposite gender, like that's it. Stop, full stop. Like you're not taught to still question that and explore it and really figure out if that's for you. Yeah. Not because it's some bad thing or it's a thing people shouldn't experience, but it's like when you are outside of that box in some way, the amount that I picked apart and questioned and, looked at every single piece of attraction that I had to not men, but not a second did I spend questioning my attraction to men. If it just would have saved me so much time and heartache and pain if I had been encouraged to explore all of me in the same way. And so I wish that it doesn't matter who you're attracted to. It doesn't matter what kind of dating you're doing. I wish that we were just more encouraged to explore and listen. Figure out what your yeses are. And maybe your yeses are that you're a woman attracted to dudes. Excellent. Now you know that. And you can go forward and find more yeses. Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah. I love that. And it just pulls on one thought that I think, one of the things that we love to tell people here and we try to drive home is that you can be pretty much anything you want, right? You can figure it out, explore it. I mean, one of our very first episodes with some friends of ours that she identifies as a lesbian and she's married to a man. And that's basically the only man in her life that she has any sort of romantic or sexual chemistry or connection with. Everybody else is women, and they explore that very fruitfully. And so, be you, do you, and don't let other people tell you what you can and can't do with the people you love. I think is
exactly.
Just communicate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love to, it sounds like you are shifting a little bit of your work. Your new podcast is out and it sort of piggybacks on the work you've done on YouTube as a content creator, which I also think, not to downplay that in any way, right? You've gone through a very public becoming of who you are and how incredibly vulnerable that is to do. So I'm really grateful for all of the work you do, Alayna.
Oh, thank you.
I want to give you a moment to talk about it.
Well, I think that the thing I want to talk about, the most exciting thing is my new show, Sleeping Around. It lives on my YouTube channel, Alayna Joy. It also lives wherever you get your podcasts. And I hope you check it out, especially if you enjoy this content, you enjoy what Emma and Finn do. That's what we're doing over there is we're talking about stories, we're talking about different experiences, and the real focus of the show is talking about kind of therapeutic insight. So the idea is that if you come and listen to an episode, I hope that you walk away with that feeling of just had a really good therapy session, but it's free and accessible, and I'm trying to make all of this information that's maybe a bit gate kept behind kind of academic walls or in books that are a bit inaccessible or you learn it in the graduate level classroom, those kinds of things. I'm trying to bring that to anybody who wants it.
Yeah. Amazing. And you're also on the path yourself to becoming a therapist or counselor. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I'm in a master's of counseling psychology. Well, a master's of arts in counseling psychology. Currently, I'll be done in about a year. Yeah.
Awesome.
Same time.
Yeah. Similar to me. I'm also in a graduate program. So to be therapist.
So exciting.
Yeah. It's awesome. And if you have time, I have one last question.
I have a fun one too, if you got a moment.
Okay.
These are the bonus questions.
Yeah, the bonus questions. Well, this one, again, as much as you're comfortable sharing, but I'm curious, you've been very out around this journey, as Finn said, and very open. And how has that gone, with your background, with your family, with has that been...
And a huge community.
Yeah. You said when you came out, you received a lot of support. And I'm just wanting to, see how that has gone really too.
Yeah. I mean, I've been incredibly lucky in that my family is so supportive and loving, and they just want me to be happy. If I'm happy, they're happy. The people that they surround themselves with, at least at this point, are also very supportive and lovely. The internet has been so nice, which was surprise. I've had a really welcoming coming out. The town I grew up in as a whole, not so sure, but I don't live there anymore. Right. Not super worried about it. But no, I've been very #blessed.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Like, I'm so glad. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's not always that case. So, yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, my last question is more of just a fun, joking question. So, it's similarly at your own comfort level. So, one of your series on your YouTube channel that we've actually been enjoying is we watch your lesbian thirst trap objectification videos.
Yeah.
And so I'm just, this is purely curiosity. If you were, let's say, if you were a Chat GPT and somebody typed in hottest lesbian thirst trap video, what would the Alayna algorithm output?
Oh God, what a question.
You're gonna make her
can't
choose.
even.
That's hard.
No, like I honestly can't. I don't know. Like, watch a couple of those videos. Those are my top. Like, there are so many different like categories, like there's a few things that really get me, whether it's skill-based things.
Okay.
Anyone showcasing a skill, hot.
Chopping wood, for example.
Yeah. Chopping wood, drawing really straight lines.
The bar just got very low.
Aerobatics, acrobatics.
Chopping wood to straight lines.
Like, those are skills. Anybody, like, I love, and like, who doesn't? The little spot, like, on somebody's body right by your hip bone.
Yeah.
So, like, anytime that's showing, if you have, like, a high slit dress or, like, whatever, anything, I'm like, ugh, that spot is magic. Choreographed dancing. Some of the best ones are, like, choreo. The simple, pared down, look, I'm showing you my outfit, but also, like, we're making kind of this intense eye contact, and it's like there's tension. You can't you go watch the series, you'll see the best.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
I love it. We have a good time with it. It's fun. I thought I'd pick your brain. I was curious what floats to the top of those. So
muscles. There it is. I love a muscle.
Excellent.
But even that it's like, I love a muscle, but then you also love, like, all of it. Yeah.
You don't have to explain it to us. We're not monogamous over here, Alayna. We get it.
There doesn't have to be one answer at all.
No, it's like impossible.
Yeah, totally.
It's women. I love when women.
There you go. Exactly. Well, thank you for all your work and for being here and for chatting with us today and for having us on your show as well. So it was a wonderful conversation. And
no, you guys are so fun to talk to. Thanks for having me.
Totally. Well, and hopefully it's not our last time our paths cross, and we'll be in touch. So have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday afternoon.
Thank you. You guys too.
And we're back. Thank you again, Alayna, for everything today. It was wonderful to talk with you. Thank you for sharing and for all of the wonderful work that you do as well. Thank you for having us on your podcast, too. We're excited to share it with everyone.
You stole all the thank yous.
Yes, that's a lot of thank yous.
Well, thank you, Alayna, from my side as well. And a reminder to everybody, please go check out Alayna's YouTube channel, her Instagram, her new podcast, her old podcast, and all of the other work that Alayna does. You won't be disappointed.
And a final reminder that our next virtual speedfriending event is going to be on February 21st. That's a Friday. You can sign up at our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, on the events tab, or at the banner at the top of the page.
And the last thing we're going to tell you all about is next week. We're bringing back one of our guests.
We are. Ori was previously on episode 309, and she comes back next week and shares an update with us all.
So we'll see you all in a week. In the meantime, you can go listen to that, and you can go watch all of the lesbian thirst traps over on Alayna's YouTube channel.
Yeah, you're going to want to go check those out.
Yep, we're going to go do it right now.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.